Your relationship is very central this time round. Where do we kind of pick up with Thor and Loki?
It's kind of where they left off, you know. Obviously with Avengers kind of segueing in there, and but you know, what I loved about this time around was being able to really ask those questions and explore the relationship properly, you know. And Thor to say to Loki, "What do you want? You know, what is this? What's this about?" And vice versa. And you know, and we haven't done that in the past. It's just been we met on the battlefield most of the time, you know, and headbutting our way through it. But they're kind of drawn to one another here because the circumstances are so threatening that they need to put aside their differences in order to defeat this enemy.
It's more of an emotional sort of dynamic this time, I suppose, and a little bit more vulnerable for you both.
Sure.
Yeah, I guess there's always been a strain of that all the way through. Certainly, it was something that Kenneth Branagh was injected very crucially into the first film. There was a deep kind of hidden love between brothers that was then polluted and distorted by the events of the first film, and then it's something that Thor continues to appeal to, even though the rest of the Avengers dismiss Loki as a psychopath. Thor is constantly defending Loki, and in this situation, Thor's let go of that affection, and that puts Loki in a very different position.
And even in Avengers, there's that Shakespeare in the Park scene, which is obviously played for comedy, but there is that sort of grand tragic element to the relationship, I suppose.
Well, yeah, and they're archetypes. You know, the warring brothers has been a story that's been explored in myth and narrative for thousands and thousands of years. So we're just kind of taking that baton and running with it.
And Tom, I know you said you pitched some scenes that were sort of picked up later on for sort of additional stuff for Loki. Was that things between the two of you, or were those sort of scenes that were solo? Or what?
Actually, it was just kind of connective tissue that I mean, the great thing about working with Marvel and Alan Taylor, Kevin Feige, Craig Kyle, Louis D'Esposito, the guys who, there are not very many of them, there's like 5 or 6 people who make all of the Marvel films. And I was just sort of, having lived inside Loki for a little bit, was saying, you know, in my mind, I'd love to just like give a coda to this or mark this up because we set this up in another film, and it'd be nice to just throw a hint to it for my own emotional logic, really. And some of them fell by the wayside and some of them didn't. So I was really pleased with that.
And I mean, there is that same sense of sort of this being a very expansive universe, and the cameo that happens here is, again, just a reminder of all these sort of interconnected films. I mean, is that
That was really fun to shoot.
It looked like it was fun to shoot. It's fantastic. So, I mean, do you have more of a sense now of the sort of grand universe now that you've both been in a couple of...
Yeah, sure. And I think you're aware of it and appreciate the kind of benefits that each of these other films gives your individual film, but at the same time, want to make sure yours stands on its own. And that's, you know, the Marvel sort of orchestration of this whole layout with these films has been so brilliant. You know, they do tie into one another, but they're still separate.